most people they retire and they shrink. And Ginny Maccoll retired and became a world record holder. Now, it wasn't actually her intention, but she did anyway. And what if everything you believed about aging was wrong? And here we today we have the living proof of this 74-year-old lady who does incredible and I would almost say like ridiculously fun things. And so, welcome to the Vibrant Elderhood. This is a
Thank
channel
you.
where we share about the second half of life isn't a slow fade. It's an invitation to play more deeply, live more fully, and discover capacities you didn't even know you had. So today's guest is the proof exactly of that. We have Ginny McCall, is a former Broadway dancer, um, then turned actress, which is already a huge feat on its own. A competitive swimmer, um, and a Guinness record holder. And we'll talk all about this in the program, of course. And an American ninja warrior. So we're going to find out exactly what that means if you don't know what it is. I've imagined images of you wearing like a black mask with like a like what uh, and and we're going to share about how when you're 60 you start you become like your strength has come from pull-ups. And this is I find this incredible, Ginny, that when you at 63 you couldn't even do one, and now um at and now you've done 17 of them. That's your record, right, for the Guinness records. Wow. Well, we're going
Correct.
to get into this. I'm just sharing. And you hadn't even been to a gym when you were 63. And yeah, what I really love about your story is this saying yes to life. To me, it really this comes across. And for me, walking along the playful path starts with this curiosity to know what's there. What am I able to do? What am I able to learn? What can I discover? What stories am I telling to myself that aren't true? And having fun. So let's go straight into Ginny. And so yeah, tell me about this. Tell me about your story about the pull-ups, because to be able to get that good at pull-ups, you had to have like a really strong intention behind it, right? But perhaps before that, let's give a little bit more context about your story. Something you'd like to share. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I thank your audience as well for listening. Yeah, I'm 74 years old. That is correct. And I did dance on Broadway, which was one of the most wonderful times of my life. I felt that that was the peak. Um, and then I went into doing TV commercials. And that was a wonderful time. That's when I got married and had two children, lived in New York City for 25 years. And it was great until, unfortunately, the marriage fell apart and I ended up being a single mom. And I think this is where I started to really blossom because I had found out that I needed to get it done, whatever it was. There was nobody there to help. So I was going to, take life and make it happen and adapt. And that I think that's a big word for my life is adapting to different things as they come along.
Mm,
Because where I moved with my children, even though I had to give up the dancing and the acting, was a very remote place on a lake in the middle of, hundreds of acres of woods where there was hunting going on. And it was difficult for the kids to walk home. There were bear there, so that was another reason it was difficult for them to walk
wow.
home from school. And we were a mile from the closest road. But that's where I think my kids really had a great upbringing as well, because they saw me making things happen. And so, like my daughter said, she learned to be self-sufficient. My son said that never give up was what he learned from me at that time. But they didn't have the cell phones, they didn't have the computer, they didn't have cable TV. It was just a different life. It was sort of how I grew up in the woods and enjoying
Mm,
nature. But it was the best of times and then the worst of times because I had to figure out and get a real job, as we call it in the acting business. And what am I going to do? That was a huge thing. I love books, and I ended up working at a bookstore for like 5.15 an hour. It was not much to go by. And I ended up teaching dance. My daughter took all my dance classes, and my son was sitting there like not very happy with me. But we made things happen. Years passed, fast forward, moved to Maryland, and I worked in radio for 20 years, actually. And that was what I was saying is that I really had to adapt because I had never learned computers. And so, that was pretty hard for me now as I'm aging. And I had to self teach myself what to do.
Mm.
And again, they don't give you a lot of help and tell you exactly what to do. You have to kind of work with it, push those buttons, and keep going and learn more different software programs. So that was a tough one, and I was out of my element as well. So when I retired at age 62, I had remarried, moved to North Carolina, where they had Wilmington was considered the Hollywood of the East at the time. So there are a lot of film work there, which I had really not delved into at all. So my first goal was to get back to acting. So I had my pictures, I had my resumes, and
And that
immediately
when
got an
even
agent.
when you were in the woods, was that in the back of your mind all the time? Like one day I will get
Always,
back to acting.
always. When I had to leave New
Okay.
York, I went one day. I'm going to get back to this, and even if I'm a granny, which
Okay.
which I
Okay.
became, but
Okay.
it was
Do you
the
remember like
driving
do you
force.
remember the moment that you actually like said that to yourself? Was it like a very clear intention where you said like
It was a very clear intention. I do remember it, but I did said it so many times as I
yes,
moved to Maryland and stuff. I thought maybe in Maryland I would get started back into it, but it really, you need to earn money. You have to get those kids to school and
yes,
all their classes and
yes.
and such. So it's just my daughter calls it an absurd amount of determination. And it's like if somebody says you can't do something, which was all my life, you can't go to New York and become a dancer because one in thousands make it there. You can't live in this remote area because of the blizzards and the weather, and which was true. It was difficult, but it was like I have to do it now. And if I don't go to New York now, when will I do it? Not when I'm 40, you have that like I can do anything when you're 20 years old.
Yes, yes, and this is this phrase, no? It's like, if not now, when? And if not who? If not me, who? No, and so so I would like to just, even though we're still talking about your story, bring this back to people that are listening to it for their lives, no? Maybe throughout their working lives, they were also they had this dream, when I retire, I'm going to do this, or when I'm going to do this, I'm going to do, and they have like an idea of what they would like to do, but then it gets smothered with all these like, but I can't do it now, I'm too old, and and we really want to encourage people. You do spectacular things, Ginny, but it's one step at a time that you've got there, no? So for anybody that's like has harboring a dream, like they always wanted to be a singer or an actor, and now they have time to be able to do it. What can we what sort of words of encouragement can we give to these people?
Well, what you do now determines the rest of your life, and you want to stay independent. But it's never too late to chase a dream. Never. So, you have to believe in yourself. You have to take baby steps, and you have to go after it, and you have to commit that this is what you want to do. You have to get rid of all those stereotypes. You don't want to um, say after 50, it's all downhill, which is, a common one. And for women, they say you don't want to get too strong because, well, you can't as you get older, or you don't want to get too bulky, or there's so many of these stereotypes that come into play that we put it in our mental state and we believe it. And
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah. And we have
negative
to, when
state.
we're retired, we have to slow down, be careful, not do this, not do that. And there's a lot
Right,
of pressure,
right.
not from your family, right? But from other people's family. They're a little bit more scared about what they do. And we'll talk a little bit more about how your daughter inspired you, how you obviously inspired your daughter first. But they encourage you to do like all these like incredible things, right? But can you imagine other people's families are, oh, what are you doing, mum? No, you shouldn't be doing these things anymore. It should be calming down.
I'm sure that happens a lot too. Yeah, you really have to. I always say that the mental part is 85% of letting you go forward.
Mm,
And you have to keep giving yourself that self-talk that is positive. And I believe in myself and I know I can do this. And if this person can do a pull-up, then why can't I? I might have to take a little bit longer to learn the process. It may take longer, the baby steps, but it's something I really feel will make me feel accomplished if I can get over this, negative talk. And
yes.
I do that a lot, and when, especially in swim, when I'm like, an hour with a coach, all right, ready, go. And you have to keep going. And I don't have any energy left. And I see other people going, and if they can go, well, just do it. You may not be as fast, but just try it. And if you can get through it, then it's like, oh, I did that. And we can do so much more than we think we can do. That's something that sticks in my head all the time as well.
Mm,
But when it came to pull-ups, that was particularly the thing because it was very difficult for me. I didn't have that upper body strength. So when I went to the bar that you put in your door frame, and I couldn't get anywhere, so I went to a personal trainer.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you don't
Let's
just
let's let's
work
give a
on
little bit of
pull-ups.
context for this a second because we haven't shared this yet. If people don't know that you if I'm right, at 63 you're diagnosed with a sort of pre-osteoporosis, osteopenia, and basically they said you get strong, no, do strength work. Is that how it was? And then you said, okay, how am I going to get strong?
Actually, it is not how it went.
Okay.
Um, in my early 60s, yes, I went back and I checked, and it was 60s, not 40s, which I told some people, but it
Okay.
was around 60. They did the bone density, and I had never heard of the term osteopenia. That was just like, what is that? That sounds terrible. What have I got? And she explained it's bone loss and that it's a step before osteoporosis. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I get rid of this? And she said, well, you can't get rid of it, but you can help to maintain it by taking calcium. And so that's what I did. And I would say, well, can I reverse this? And she said, no, never said anything about lifting weights or anything like that at the time.
Okay.
And I kind of went by what she said. And I took my calcium. And so when I had gone to the personal trainer and started working on pull-ups, we did a lot of weightlifting. And of course, you don't just do a pull-up, you work on the shoulders, the back, the chest, the arms, the legs, everything. And it took me an entire year to get one pull-up, I might add, after having tried to do it myself for several years and getting nowhere. But when I went for my bone density test now, around 63, um, it had gone back to normal. It was significantly changed. And
Wow.
I was like, whoa. And that's when I really started trying to get that message out to women that, this is possible. I mean, a lot of doctors will say, lifting weights, but how many people go out and start lifting weights? Or jumping rope or trying to get that impact to strengthen our bones. So, and the HRT was not, it was looked upon as creating breast cancer at the time when I was diagnosed with osteopenia. So that wasn't an option. So they didn't recommend it. And that's all turned around now. I mean, it's, how life is. This is good for you one day and it's bad for you
Oh
the
yeah,
next. And
absolutely.
then they turn it around. But anyway, that's a new thing. It's not new, but people are talking about it a lot now when you are, reading material. So it was amazing to me that lifting weights made such a significant change. Now, there is what's called the aging process. The body does break down. If you don't work it, if you do nothing, then you'll lose bone mass from 1 to 2% per year.
And muscle
And
mass.
after, yeah, this is bone loss. And after menopause, women can lose up to 20%. So it's pretty frightening. And the same thing with your muscles. You lose, 1 to 1.5% per year after, it could be 30 years old. And when you're up to 70 years old, you've lost 50% if you do nothing of your muscle. So that's why it becomes difficult to open jars or to lift. And so these are things that we need to do on a regular basis, and we need to start early. And if women and men in their 20s and 30s would have started this kind of campaign on a regular basis of exercise, then maybe we wouldn't have osteopenia or osteoporosis. However, I mean, I know there are other situations where people cannot turn it around or, have a worse problem. But for many of us, this may never happen if you start in your 20s and 30s. So my message goes out to the younger generation too. Get started now. And, some of these things might go away. Exercise is like phenomenal to your body and to your mind.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what kind of exercise as well, because um, I really enjoy these, and I could ride on the unicycle and
Ah,
slackline,
yes.
and I've been juggling
Nice.
for years, and
Oh, I wish I could do that.
you could do it if you want to. You can do it. Like it's
True, true. If I want to, I can
with
work on
it,
it.
the unicycle is so much fun. It's like basically this is why I say to people, well, to start with, you have to sort of like use a wall to balance on as you go with the pedals. It's good to find somebody who knows how to do it to start with, right? But then
Sure.
for a month, just take it everywhere where you go, and then you learn to ride it, and it's a very strange sensation riding a unicycle.
I bet it is. Yeah. I
And
bet it is. Now,
yeah,
I love this play that you're talking about because I try to do everything I can in a what's called gamification. I like to make it fun. I like to have challenges. We do a lot of balance work at my friend Chuck's house, who builds a lot of the obstacles, and we have fun with it. We may
yeah.
like stand on a Bosu ball and throw a weighted ball back and forth to each other and see if we can hold the balance. I mean, we play games
This is
and
this is
and
this is
work on it.
fun, yeah. And what and do you get into a process where you're like just thinking up things together? Oh, let's try this and let's try this and
Absolutely. Yeah. When I do a balance across a beam, I'll go, okay, I feel pretty secure with that. Let me try it backwards. Okay, let me see if I can do, this on it. Or I'm going to stand on it and Chuck, my friend, you push me gently and see if I can hold my balance on this thing. So, it just becomes a lot of laughter and we enjoy it. Sometimes we're just taking a ball against a mini tramp and trying to catch it while we're standing on something that is unstable. So I enjoy that as well as Ninja is fun. Ninja Warrior is, a group of obstacles that one tries to
like it's
go
like
from begin.
just I'm just gonna paint a picture for people in a funny way, right? It's like monkeys like going through the jungle basically, swinging from
Swinging,
obstacle to
swinging is one of
obstacle.
the, yeah, swinging is one of the most fun things to learn to do, to go from ring to ring or from bar to bar. The monkey bars, like you said, it's just a fun feeling. You have to be able to hold up your weight, obviously. So it's a fun feeling. You feel like you're flying through the air. Laches is when you swing on a bar and throw it behind you, and it propels you forward to the next bar. So you have to let go and catch a bar. So that's again a flying kind of thing, or moving through different obstacles like balls that you have to go from one to another and you have to grab it tight enough. You have to have good grip strength, which is also good for being independent later in life and opening jars. It's
Yeah, I've heard a
grip
lot about this
strength.
grip strength. Is it just about being able to hold things, or is it like also connected to our minds?
Well, I think everything is kind of connected to our minds, but
Okay.
the grip is something that you work on. Like if you do it, what we call a dead hang, where you are on a bar and you just hang from it. A lot of times people say it hurts their hands, but you develop calluses so that you get used to it more and more. So I always say to start, baby steps. Just try to lift your toes off the ground. Just try to hold it for 3 seconds. Maybe the next day, try to hold it for 4 seconds and keep building up the strength in your hands. I do a lot of exercises with my fingers because I have arthritis. Can you see
Ah,
the
yes.
knuckles? Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty bad. But I keep saying, I don't know who says it, but it's like keep your parts moving so your moving parts won't rust. So
Okay, yeah.
that's what I believe about this. Even though they work okay. I can hang by my fingertips, which is called the cliffhanger in the
I've
ninja
I've
world.
I have a question for you a second. So you tried to do the pull up, which lots of people they're thinking like that's impossible. It, like didn't even cross their minds to do a pull up. But it's one of these things that you could sort of get, you can do, but it seems like a distant goal perhaps. But what was the difference between when you were trying on your own and when you found your personal trainer? What was it just all the other things that you were training in as well, or was there was it just the encouragement, or was it there were some specific tips that he shared with you about amount of practice?
Well, the amount of time I worked on it was probably 2 years before I went to a personal trainer. And from my bar, I had two handles. So that brought me even closer to it. The toughest part is just the beginning, just pulling yourself up past the little bit and trying to get up. And it was never easy because finally getting one, but I had to jump to the bar. It wasn't like I was going from a straight, strict pull up.
Yeah.
So, I had to work each part of the pull up, just coming from the ground to mid and then coming from the top to mid. So I would take it in sections and work on it. And there's something called a negative where you hold from the top and you go down slowly. So you're trying to get your muscles used to this. And so it's what keeps you going with it is a commitment. And I think for me, it was like, I can't believe I can't get this when so many people on the social media, they're showing me their pull-ups and women are showing it. I'm like, I've got to get this. I'm going to go to a personal trainer and I'm going to have a goal of 5 pull-ups.
Oh,
And that's goals are very important to me. I start every day. I have to have goals for the day. And so this one was more of a long term because I knew it wouldn't happen overnight. But it was such a sense of accomplishment to have finally gotten that first pull up. And it wasn't any easier to get the second one either. So it took a lot of time. I tell people first you have to commit, and then you have to be consistent. Then you have to make it a habit. And then you build on that. And that's the story of all the exercise, I think. But the first part is the mental, the commitment.
yeah, and there's a
And I'll
lot there. There's a lot in this commitment. What does it take, do you think, for somebody to commit to something? Like, what is also the fear of committing to something? Or do you think it's just like often people just aren't aware of this process that they need to commit, make a decision and set an intention?
Well, for me, it was like if I don't do it one day in one form or another, do it, that gives me an excuse not to do it the next time too. So
Mm.
it has to be, if I've gotten through the day and I still haven't done X, Y, and Z, I have to do it. And that's just my mind going, if you don't do it, you're going to be very upset tomorrow. So
Yes,
it's just a determination.
yes.
And I can't think of another word that would, the persistence. And it came from acting because, I go to acting and you get rejected all the time when you go to auditions. I'd have 7 auditions in a daytime sometimes when with Broadway shows and commercials. And you just, it's a lot of rejection. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to step above and beyond that to, again, it comes down to that belief in yourself that you can do this if you put your mind to it, like you said earlier.
yeah. And your acting training, I went to a physical theatre school in Switzerland, so wasn't really pantomime, mime, and it was a lot of, but there was a lot of work on our bodies, on expression, and just awareness of our bodies, and I'm just wondering what you can share about this sort of relationship because a lot of people they just walk around their bodies are just instruments for them to get from one place to another. They don't really have a relationship with their body. So how does all the work you've been doing with strength relate to your relationship to yourself and then your relationship with others and just giving a broader um, reflection about the benefits of having a practice where you set yourself some goals. They could be long-term goals, short-term goals, but setting some goals and then doing them. What does this generate in our whole psyche, in our whole being?
Well, that was a lot, so I have to figure out what I'm going
Yeah,
to
choose whatever you
do.
want. Sorry.
Yes, I'm trying to
Pick whatever.
um,
Yeah, just go up and pop something out.
something else. Um, it's the consistency is really important, and um, I tell a lot of people to get started with just walking and to find a buddy and make it fun because if you're walking, you have to be accountable to somebody else if they're the same way. The two of you are like getting together and trying to do something. And then over time, maybe 3 times a week you start with, and maybe 20 minutes each time. And try to go a little faster and get your heart rate up. Good for the heart. That's a muscle as well. So I think that's always a good thing to get going, to get started. Um, and you want to stick with it. I find the health benefits are amazing for your whole body and
Just how you
the
feel.
quality of your
Just how you
life.
feel.
How
Your
you feel,
energy
the
level.
confidence it gives you of being able to, when my husband hands me a jar and says, "Here, can you open this muscles?" It's like it just makes me kind of laugh and like, well, maybe I can, maybe I can't, but it's the confidence, the health benefits, which again are phenomenal, and it's the idea of being able to be independent for as long as possible, and that is what I think we all strive for. And to not have to use a cane or a walker for as long as possible. And that's if you keep doing these, you know, exercises, whether it's cardio and strength training, and you brush your teeth every morning and night, it has to be the same thing with the exercise
Yes,
program. And
yes,
if you can't do it yourself, then I think having a personal trainer is very important to learn the proper form.
yes.
Um,
And what do
but
you also
yeah,
say? What you also say about falling? No, making sure that
it's a
we're
huge
strong.
thing
So we but that's such an issue as we get older. No,
as we
falling
age.
over.
Yeah. Well, you don't, a lot of times, a guy at 40 thinks he can do just about anything, and he'll try to go up a warped wall, which is on the show, American Ninja Warrior. And it's a wall that goes up 14 and a half feet. And it starts curved and it goes straighter up. And they think, okay, I can do that. And they start running, and then they tear a Achilles tendon because they haven't worked it or warmed the body up, which is
Mhm.
very important in all this is falling. You have to learn how to fall early on because when I said the baby steps, if I want to jump to a bar, I will just jump up and see if my hands go up high enough. I may have to jump harder. So jump up and see if I can touch the bar. Then I'll jump up and see, if the coming down is easy, and mats help a lot. But in the front yard of my friend, we we're on the lawn, so you don't want to be up too high. So it's everything is, the farthest that you're going to have to fall down will be maybe a foot or a foot and a half. So you should learn to land on your toes and then into your heels. So there's ways that you don't hurt your back when you come down. Um, you want to know how to fall correctly. If you're in a gym and they have mats, you want to be able to roll so that roll out of a fall and you don't crash and break your wrists or, worse. So that's a good start. Also, people as they get older, they want to be able to, if you do fall down, you want to have the strength to be able to get up on all fours and be able to stand up by yourself. So there's a lot of practice with getting up and down from a chair, from getting up and down from the floor. But falling is a real problem. I fall a lot, but I usually make sure that when I fall, it's in a safe environment. That's the first thing. Yeah, don't try to, jump to the top of a 14-inch block before you've tried a 2-inch block, and just go up little by little and
Little
warm up
by
your arms.
little, little by little.
And I try to always do a warm up. If I'm doing a lot of balance, I'll warm up my ankles, I'll warm up my knees, and warm up my hips. And afterwards, I like to stretch. So warming up before, stretching after. I'm not sure that answered any of your questions, but I
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah, yeah,
say
yeah,
that
yeah.
the
Yeah,
the
and
feeling of accomplishment
sometimes I throw out a lot of questions like this just so that something new comes
sticks.
out somehow as well.
Well, I think
So,
the
so
quick, short answer was that the health benefits, the confidence it gives you, just those are like the main things I think from doing all this.
yeah. So it's to me it seems like there's a very fine line because there are lots of people that are lost after they retire. They don't know what to do with themselves. So it almost sounds like strength training is just a way to ground yourself again so you can be a little bit less in your overthinking mode in your mind and really land in your life and see what things are calling to you, no? Is this
Exactly. Oh, right. I must say that I never did sports growing up, and I had never been in a gym until age 63. So I want to be encouraging to people who have not done any of these things. Oh, I've never done that. I'm not going to try now. But you can. I think a lot of people before they retire, they think about what they want to do, all these things that they want to do. But when you sit there and you've got this time, a lot of times you just don't get the start. The start is the hardest thing. But if you prepare yourself in advance, like I wanted to get back to acting, so I got my pictures and my resumes, and I went gray because I wanted to be my age, or be who I am right now. And so I had all that planned. I knew exactly I was going to an agent. I knew exactly that I would have to figure out how to submit video. So I'd have to learn, how to make a room lit well for me to be able to do auditions and send them out, which is what happens these days. So a lot of learning, and the learning process helps your brain, because if you're doing new things, your brain actually grows. It's called the anterior mid cingulate cortex. And if you do something that you haven't done before, that you're a little reticent to do, the brain actually grows. So I always tell people, if they're don't want to go to that class, just think, if you go to the class, your brain is going to grow. um, but I think it's so important to find these things in advance and commit. Commit is that word I use all the time. You commit to it. I wanted to do things I hadn't done before, like kayak and paddleboard and bike. And I just enjoyed all those kind of things to begin with, along with the acting. But I saw my daughter doing American Ninja Warrior, which
Yeah,
you
yeah. Let's talk about
said
your daughter a
earlier.
second. This is interesting story. Yeah.
Yeah, she is like one of the top ninjas, one of the original females that really did well with the show. It's very difficult on the joints and for women, but she just shined so brightly out there on the course. And she's been on maybe 13 seasons. Um, and when I watched her, I was just a cheerleader for her. That was it. I was always a cheerleader for her. All the gymnastics she took, and the pole vaulting, and the trapeze work she did. And I watched her, and she had muscles, and she was showing little girls out there how cool it is to be strong. And women at that time thought, I can't do that. But she was showing people that you can do that. And I wanted to get stronger because I thought it looked fabulous. And it looked healthy and strong and confident and all those things I said before. And so that's how I started with my pull up journey, is that she had mentioned that as one of the things I could do to get stronger. And that was one of those aha moments. I want to get stronger.
Mm.
Just like when I was 16, I made a vow I would never stop exercising. And just like after the acting that I had to leave, I promised myself I would get back to it. These are like vows that are going to happen. I will never be happy with myself if I don't get them done. And if I'm 80 and I look back, what am I going to say? What am I going to say to myself if I don't do them? I wish I had. So that's kind of what was going through my head when I saw my daughter do the show. And the producers actually thought it would be good to do a hometown story on Jessie, and do a mother-daughter workout routine, based on, what she had been saying. And so it was a beautiful production, just a gorgeous production of us working out together. And they kind of asked me to submit. And you have to have a 3-minute video showing what you can do, and having personality. And I'm like, gosh, I can barely do one pull up. I don't know about this. I can do some other things that I tried at my friend Chuck's house. And so I did the video, and I went, well, we'll see what happens. And I got the call. And then I went, yikes, Jesse, what do I do now? And she said, you have to get to a competition. They have leagues all over the place where you can go and you can get a little experience being in front of an audience and doing different obstacles. So I did that. And the first one I went to, I did quite well at, even though I felt kind of different from everybody else with my gray hair there. But everybody was very welcoming, and just delighted that that was my first uh, competition. And so from there, well, I got on the show, and there I am on that first obstacle, which are 5 steps that are inclined like this,
Yes.
very, very much so, like, I don't know, 55% inclined. And they're far apart. So you have to jump from one to another, and you're over water. And it happens at night because that's the way they can actually determine how the lights will go. In the daytime, the clouds come in and out, and you can't be sure of how the picture will come out. So it
Yeah.
starts maybe at 9 o'clock at night,
Wow.
and the lights are in your eyes. You can't get on any of the obstacles ahead of time, or you're out if you touch an obstacle. But they do show you with a run through, and a tester. They show you how each obstacle
Oh,
goes.
because they might have new obstacles that you've never seen before.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So, but they had had these steps for quite a few seasons. So I had practiced, and there I am at the first platform, and I'm like, oh, what have I done? They're so far apart. I don't know if I can do this. And I jump to they go boop, 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 and then off you go. And I hit the first step, and then I jumped to the second step, and I slipped right down into the water, and I was devastated. I was shocked actually first, but it was it's like having a car accident and you relive it over and over and over again. The same thing with falling into the water, like this couldn't have happened. I've let down my daughter, all the producers, my husband, everybody who came to see me, these millions of people who are out in the audience. And I just couldn't get over it. And my husband said, "You'll do it again." And I went, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "Because you can do this." And my daughter said, "Don't let one fall define you. Look how far you've come." And I know that she was right. And I love that saying because you, through the failures, you find strength. But it was still very hard mentally on me. And I didn't want to give it up because I was having fun with Ninja at Chuck's yard and his backyard course. And so I kept going and worked harder at it. And I went, no, I'm going to try again. And I worked those steps like crazy. And, I also learned a heck of a lot from it. Um, and I wanted to keep going on. So
Oh,
I did. I competed again the next year. I fell again on the first obstacle, but I got to the fourth step this time. But that didn't stop me. And it wasn't as bad this time. I didn't relive the moment over and over again. I went, I need to work and get stronger legs. And so that's what I started to do. And then I worked as a tester on the show where I came in early before people were on the obstacles, and I got to test them to see, are they too hard? Are they too easy?
huh.
Can somebody who hasn't done obstacles before get through it easily or hard? And they would work with the obstacles. So I got to get on the obstacles, and that really helped me. And I really enjoyed it because we're just a group of people that are, you get to do the obstacle over and over again, and it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, wow.
Um, so it was 5 years after that that I went on again. And it was because COVID shut everything down. It was just that period of time I was working to get stronger. And season 15, they changed the first obstacle on me, but I got through it and became the oldest person to complete an obstacle. And that was a big deal. I was really thrilled. So, of course, now my next goal is to get through the second obstacle. And I didn't go on season 16, but I went on season 17, got through the first obstacle again, which were those steps. And I got through it. And the second obstacle is always a little, it's tricky. It's tricky. And I fell on the second again. But again, it's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. It's something that you want to just keep getting better at. And that's sort of where I am. Now, Guinness didn't call me because of American Ninja Warrior, but because of the leagues that I compete in. There are several different leagues that I go to, like once a month I compete. And so they took that and they checked all the competitors around the world, around the whole world, and said that I was the oldest female ninja competitor athlete. And
Wow.
that was my claim to a title. And that was like I'm like, hmm, is the whole world? Can that be? That's just amazing. And they put me in the press package, and I was, contacted by TV stations, magazines, newspapers all over the world. I talked to South Africa and Poland and India and China and people just everywhere who I see we all have the same kind of problems about getting stronger or what we are capable of as we become older. And I know it's changing. I see people in their 80s and 90s that can do extraordinary things. And I am inspired by them. And particularly in swimming, I see them in their 90s diving off the block, doing the flip turns and, 200-yard swims and making world records. And I just love seeing how our seniors are getting up there and they're doing things and they're getting stronger. And I want the people to know all over the world that you can. You can get stronger as you age. You can do things that you never thought were possible. You can make what seems impossible possible. And I want your audience to know that as well. That if they have a flicker of something, if they want to play the ukulele, if they want to, learn a different language, all these things are great for your brain. But you also have to exercise that body. You have to keep moving.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So this I love all that. This my project is all about there's two words here, vibrant and
Love that word.
elderhood, right? And so I really like this idea of giving back to pensioners, let's say, the status of elderhood, which is it's what you're doing now. It's transmitting a message, transmitting your wisdom. It's being someone who others listen to. Um, Now, it doesn't have to be an international stage. It can be just in your community, but to restitute this role because retired people, our culture is so work orientated. As soon as you step out of work, you're like a little bit out of it, and it's like you're not earning money anymore, and it can create
Yes.
whole sort of spirals going on, no? And but
Well, a lot of people have a hard time with it.
the real work is the work that comes after work, the spiritual work, the working on your intent, what you have to share, what your legacy is for the world. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing, but it
Not at
needs to
all.
be something. It's there anyway. It just needs to be uncovered, right?
Exactly. So true.
And just I'm going to share this. So my work is it's and this is why I resonate as well is what I call the playful path. So we have vibrant body. So it's not just about being fit. It's about having this vibrancy
Energy.
about you, energy in your body, right? And then joyful mind. So being able to set an intention, knowing how to talk to yourself, knowing your
Mm.
limits, seeing a big vision, um, and being uplifted, right? Seeing let's say, focusing on what's good in your life, being grateful, all of this, and then loving relationships. So when these three come together, then we start to really flow with life. This is
Hmm.
my vision of it. So we can play the ukulele, all this, but we need to come back to our body because it's this is our vehicle for this planet, is our body.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. And, I will say again, is you want to be independent as long as you possibly can to get up and down out of a chair, to go up and down stairs, to be able to lift your luggage in the bin in the airplane or put your dishes away in the cabinet. You want to be able to do as much as possible for as long as possible.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to share as like a last tiny nugget of wisdom, and then I will share about where people can find you in the
Sure.
comments, of course, in the description, of course.
Well, I think one of the very first things is to throw away those stereotypes because we don't want to allow those to enter our brain. And our brain is, the mental part is 85% of what we do. And you can do a lot more than you think you can. Because what you do today will determine the quality of the rest of your life. So think about the process, not necessarily winning or the end, but think about the process and how you've come to it. So yeah, a lot of times we get discouraged, but see the process along the way and and um and just focus on that because that'll show you that you are progressing. So find a friend to walk with or to go to a gym with or um, and just realize that you're never too old. It's never too late. And just don't give up. Commit, be consistent, form that habit, and then build on that.
Thank you, Ginny. So
You're
if you
welcome.
reach
And you can reach me on Instagram is the best way. I try to
Instagram.
answer everybody who comments or has a question. So it's you'll have it in the show notes, or it's just my name, Ginny, Ginny. McCall is Maccoll. And you can find me on Facebook, um, also on TikTok and Instagram, mostly on Instagram.
Thank you, Jenny. So I'd love to hear from you how this episode was in the comments, and thanks for watching.